Baik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Bertemu kita kembali lagi di dalam satu program yang diminati ramai lah boleh kata ya. Dan anda bersama dengan saya sekarang ini Muhammad Syazmi Muhammad Salih selaku host anda yang akan menghostkan Simposium on Cost of Living tahun 2021, dan kami ingin mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih kepada anda yang masih lagi setia bersama dengan kami, dan kepada anda yang baru sahaja bersama-sama dengan kami di sesi sebelah petang ini. Kami mengucapkan selamat datang dan terima kasih kerana sudi bersama-sama dengan program yang dianjurkan oleh Kementerian Perdagangan Dalam Negeri dan Hal Ehwal Pengguna. Dan ini adalah merupakan program yang buat julung-julung kalinya diadakan oleh Scol, KPDN, HEP. Dan untuk kita kembali imbas apa yang telah pun berlaku di sebelah pagi, dan kita telah bersama-sama dengan Div Kehormat, terutamanya kita telah pun menyaksikan perasmian telah pun disempurnakan oleh Yang Berhormat Dato Sri Alexander Nantalinggi, Menteri Perdagangan Dalam Negeri dan Hal Ehwal Pengguna. Manakala selepas itu telah pun berlangsung ucap tama oleh Yang Berbahagia Profesor Tan Sri Dato Sri Dr. Nur Azlan Ghazali, Pengarah Eksekutif Majlis Tindakan Ekonomi EAC, dan juga gimik perasmian telah pun dapat sama-sama kita saksikan melalui Zoom meeting ini. Dan kita nak kongsikan kepada anda bahawa di sesi sebelah pagi tadi telah pun disertai oleh semua rakyat Malaysia, terutamanya kepada hadirin yang bersama dengan kami di aplikasi Zoom meeting ini. Tidak ketinggalan juga Simposium on Cost of Living tahun 2021 dipancarkan secara langsung menerusi Facebook KPDN HEP laman rasmi, dan dipersilakan anda untuk menonton menerusi FB juga, dan jangan lupa untuk like, follow dan share secara langsung yang telah pun kami bawakan ini. Dan sebelum kita berhenti berehat sebentar tadi, kita telah pun sempurnakan sesi diskusi yang pertama yang mana mendapat minat dan juga perhatian oleh para hadirin dan juga rakan-rakan kita yang berada di Facebook, yang mana diskusi yang bertajuk mengharungi kemelut kemiskinan strategi survival Malaysia telah pun berlangsung sebelum kita berhenti rehat, dan ramai yang mencari yang mencuri tumpuan dan juga memberi reaksi balas terhadap apa yang telah pun dibincangkan pada pagi tadi, terutamanya Encik Kuan Chi Heng ataupun Uncle Kentang juga terlibat dan juga bersama-sama dengan kita bagi mengupas strategi survival Malaysia. Dan pada hari ini pada jam ini kita akan juga bersama-sama dengan panelis kita yang hebat-hebat juga, yang mana pada sebentar sahaja lagi anda akan bersama-sama dengan moderator dan juga panelis yang telah pun kita jemput khas seperti dengan simposium sebentar sahaja lagi. Ingin saya kongsikan di sini, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan. Sebentar lagi tuan-tuan dan puan-puan akan bersama-sama untuk menyaksikan kupasan mengenai tajuk yang telah pun kita susun, iaitu Ekonomi Pasca COVID-19, Mencari Sinar dan Harapan, khususnya kepada anda yang sangat-sangat terkesan dalam ketika pandemik COVID-19 yang melanda di negara kita. Sebentar lagi anda akan bersama dengan moderator kita, iaitu Yang Berusaha Dr. Suraya Ismail, Pengarah Penyelidikan Institut Penyelidikan Khazanah KRI, bersama dengan panelis beliau, iaitu Yang Berbahagia Datuk Wira Dr. Haji Amir Ali Maidin, Malaysia Retailers Association MRA, Yang Berusaha Dr. Antani Das, Ketua Ekonomi Bahagian Pendidikan M-Bank, dan juga Yang Berusaha Dr. Juwita Muhammad, Fellow di Bahagian Ekonomi, Perdagangan dan Integrasi Serantau, ISIS Malaysia. Jadi kepada anda jangan lupa untuk turut serta dengan kami di Facebook KPDN HEP laman rasmi, dan sekiranya anda ada soalan dan juga kupasan, juga cadangan-cadangan yang menarik, bolehlah turunkan komen anda di ruang komen yang terdapat yang telah pun kami sediakan pada petang ini. Jadi untuk tanpa melengahkan masa, sebelum saya menyerahkan majlis pada petang ini kepada moderator Yang Berusaha Dr. Suraya Ismail, apa kata kita sama-sama saksikan bingkisan video yang telah kami sediakan. Sama-sama kita saksikan.
Masuk bulan 2 2020, gaji langsung tak ada. Jadi bila tiba-tiba dia tak ada income kita tu, pilihan ada di tangan masa tu. Sama ada saya nak turun merintih atau saya nak kena buat sesuatu. Masa mula-mula diwar-warkan mengenai potensi COVID di Wuhan, penerbangan masa tu dah mula berkurangan. Pekerjaan kami ni separuh daripada gaji pokok, separuh lagi daripada allowance terbang.
Pada bulan pertama COVID jadi, bulan kedua pun gaji tak dapat, bulan ketiga pun gaji tak dapat.
Jadi dia satu struggle juga bagi kami, kerana bila dibuat potongan gaji permulaan tu, dia tiada perbincangan antara kami dengan syarikat. Jadi bila minta penjelasan, dia tak mau bagi. Jadi sampai ke satu tahap macam saya komitmen rumah, komitmen kereta, nampak tu banyak tapi semua hutang. Jadi bila tiba-tiba dia tak ada income kita tu, jadi penat juga merintih lah sebenarnya masa tu. Penat merintih, penat dengan cerita sedih. Sesuatu kena buat. Kami mengambil keputusan, kami selagi boleh akan cuba mengelakkan letak periuk nasi kami di tangan orang lain. Lepas tu perbincangan pergi ke arah apa yang kami mampu buat, which is kedai runcit adalah perniagaan yang agak straightforward, tetapi memerlukan set disiplin yang sangat tinggi. Kenapa kami memilih perniagaan kedai runcit? Keputusan tu diambil mainly mengambil kira faktor keupayaan yang kami mampu buat lah. Okay, penerimaan masyarakat setempat, kami mengambil keputusan masa itu bukan dengan cara bermain dengan sentimen sahaja. Kami kena buat orang setempat berasa selesa dengan perniagaan yang kami buat, yang kami tawarkan. Kami sebenarnya menerapkan nilai kerja yang kami didedahkan melalui pekerjaan sebelum ini di luar negara. Kami tertarik dengan konsep yang dibuat oleh mereka, cara mereka berinteraksi, cara mereka memasarkan produk di dalam kedai itu sendiri. Jadi kami bawa ke dalam Flymat ini, tetapi dengan membawa konsep Melayu klasik itu sendiri. Keunikan di Flymat, kami mengambil semangat pekerjaan kami yang lepas. Juru terbang, dia pekerjaan atau apa saja pekerjaan yang mempunyai set disiplin dan uniform, dia menjadi satu tarikan secara sendirinya. Jadi kami terapkan semangat yang sama, disiplin yang sama di dalam perniagaan kami. Jadi selain daripada barang-barang yang dijual ini lebih menepati cita rasa dan faktor halal yang agak ketat kami jalankan, kami mengambil konsep kayu, menimbulkan balik klasik, elemen klasik, selain daripada interaksi dengan pelanggan tu lah. Cabaran untuk membuka Flymat, nombor satu antara, kalau macam kami mempunyai rakan kongsi. Rakan kongsi nombor satu, dia kena amanah. Nombor dua, cakap tak boleh banyak. Nombor tiga, kita harus mengakui kebolehan masing-masing dan buat kerja melalui kebolehan masing-masing. Itu yang paling penting. Cabaran yang paling besar, sebab kami akui satu perkara melalui pekerjaan kami yang sebelum ni, perkara yang paling susah nak handle adalah manusia tu sendiri. Strategi Flymat dalam masa akan datang, dan strategi itu dalam proses kami sedang melaksanakan juga. Jadi selepas ini, Flymat alhamdulillah dalam masa 1 tahun 5 bulan melalui 5 kali proses pengembangan. Permulaannya kedai ini cuma suku saja, tapi dengan penjagaan kewangan yang agak ketat, dia mula membesar menjadi separuh menjadi penuh, dan masa merdeka yang lepas, kedai sebelah dibuka secara ofisialnya lah. Dan selepas ini, kami dalam proses perangkaan mendapatkan modal suntikan untuk membuka cawangan di dalam Putrajaya juga, dan seterusnya berkembang ke satu Malaysia.
Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri, Dato Sri, Profesor, Dr. Tuan-Puan, pegawai-pegawai kanan, kementerian-kementerian, wakil serta para peserta daripada kerajaan, negeri, kementerian dan agensi kerajaan, serta badan-badan berkanun, institusi pengajian tinggi, syarikat berkaitan kerajaan, pihak korporat pertubuhan bukan kerajaan, para penyelidik, ahli akademik serta penggiat sosial persendirian. Selamat datang kepada tajuk perbincangan yang seterusnya untuk hari ini, iaitu Ekonomi Pasca COVID-19, Mencari, Sinar dan Harapan. Sebelum saya memulakan perbincangan, izinkan saya memperkenalkan panel-panel kita pada petang ini secara ringkas, iaitu yang pertama yang berusaha Dr. Juwita Muhammad, Indo-Pacific Fellow, Perth, US Asia Center. Sebelum ini beliau pernah bertugas sebagai fellow di bahagian Ekonomi, Perdagangan dan Integrasi Serantau ETRI, ISIS Malaysia. Beliau telah mendapat pendidikan Masters daripada Shiga University Japan dan PhD daripada Waseda University di Jepun. Beliau juga telah menulis pelbagai artikel mengenai isu tempatan dalam negara. Panel kedua merupakan yang berusaha Dr. Anthony Das, iaitu Ketua Ekonomi Bank Research yang mempunyai pengalaman dan yang luas dalam industri perkhidmatan kewangan. Beliau juga merupakan adjunct professor of Economics di University of New England, Sydney, Australia dan mendapat Masters of Science, Economic and Finance dari Bristol dan PhD-nya di UUM Malaysia. Sebelum di M-Bank, beliau adalah Ketua Ekonomi di Bank Negara Malaysia. Bidang kemahiran beliau termasuk makroekonomi, antara lain pasaran kewangan, pasaran modal, risiko, analisis kewangan, pelaburan, pembankan, pendidikan equity, corporate finance, derivatives dan juga strategi pelaburan. Hebat-hebat belaka ya. Nama panel ketiga juga adalah hebat orangnya, merupakan Presiden Bumiputra Retailers dan Naib Presiden bagi Malaysia Retailers Association, yang berbahagia Datuk Wira Dr. Haji Amir Ali Maidin, Pengarah Urusan Maidin Muhammad Holdings, Berhad, a homegrown Malaysian firm, largest hypermarket dengan annual turnover sebanyak RM3 bilion. Beliau merupakan lulusan graduan sarjana di Sonoma State University, California dan seterusnya telah mendapat Honorary Degree Doctor of Philosophy in Entrepreneurship dari Universiti Malaysia Kelantan pada tahun 2012. Beliau juga merupakan ahli eksekutif Majlis Tindakan SARA HIDUP Negara NACOL. Hadirin yang dihormati sekalian, dengan izin saya berbahasa Inggeris untuk memulakan perbincangan, tapi kita akan berbincang dalam bahasa Inggeris dan bahasa Malaysia. Untuk topik hari ini, izinkan saya mula dengan memberi sedikit mukadimah tentang teruknya bahana COVID-19 kepada negara kita dan apakah peranan kerajaan, apakah peranan firm dan mungkin apakah juga peranan society untuk memastikan kita sama-sama keluar dengan lebih berjaya daripada semasa pandemik ini menjadi endemik. So, if I may, government have intrinsic duties to its citizen, namely safeguarding the citizen's survival and physical security, and more importantly, the citizens' rights to socio-economic well-being. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic threatens all of that. The pandemic takes lives from families, and during the MCO or social distancing robs many firms and households from their everyday incomes and social interaction. Far-reaching government intervention in the economy has become a necessity to save market capitalism, which is unlikely to emerge unchanged. Now, the government has essentially started in the beginning to protect both households and firms from insolvencies. Banyak bantuan yang telah diberi, moratorium yang telah diberi kepada households, while at the same time limiting the carnage of COVID-19. Money, to my humble estimation, must not be a hindrance to health services' ability to do everything possible to control the pandemic and treat the ill. To worry about public finances in such a moment is both perverse dan counterproductive. Because spending too little is a greater threat to prosperity than spending too much. I repeat, spending too little is a greater threat to prosperity than spending too much. So now we need more strategies for our common good and protecting the socio-economic well-being. Dan itulah dia kita punya topik hari ini, mencari sinar dan harapan. Jadi saya akan mulakan dengan sedikit pertanyaan dan mungkin panel-panel akan memberi pendapat masing-masing. Pertanyaan kepada Dr. Juwita, kita tanya Dr. Juwita, lepas itu kita tanya Dr. Anthony dan kita akan tanya Datuk Wira Amir akhirnya. Dr. Juwita, there's been a lot of talk tentang the role of digital economy that will diwawarkan akan propel us better. But, sometimes it appears that some issues of digitalization is that it widens inequality, it widens accessibility sebab tak semua orang boleh dapat akses. What do you think about this, Dr. Juwita? Thank you.
Dr. Suraya. If I may answer in a form of a presentation which I have prepared, can the organizer please flash the presentation, please? I promise that it will not be longer than 10 minutes, but it will map out how the digital economy can be a new source of growth post-pandemic in Malaysia and also for the region as we try to cater to the new normal. So does the organizer have my slides? Yes, thank you. So first of all, I'm no longer with ISIS Malaysia. I am now an Indo-Pacific Fellow at the Perth US Asia Center. Next slide, please. So since we are talking about the cost of living, I as an economist have this itch to kind of just highlight what the linkage between inflation versus growth is, and maybe Dr. Anthony can later add on to the issue. So again, here is a published report by the World Bank of 2018. It looked at different inflation evolution within the developing countries. So those countries would be very relatable to us, Malaysia. So it was highlighted that low and stable inflation is very much linked to a more stable output and a more stable employment, and coupled with more rapid output growth and investment. So again, low and stable inflation actually is a positive thing that we want to aspire to, because it increases or improves the transparency of relative price changes. And this again provides a longer term confidence for savers and also investors. It also protects the purchasing power of household income and wealth. And as well, it enhances financial stability. But when we talk about inflation, what we are afraid of is when any country is experiencing high inflation for a longer period of time. So because then this will actually impact the growth over the next few years. So again, countries with high inflation rates actually suffer significantly with lower growth rates. So again, countries like Latin America have frequently ended in large output losses during the stabilization periods or even balance of payments and crisis. So again, next slide, please. In terms of Malaysia as a developing country, we know that on the ground, as a developing country, we have relatively abundant unskilled workers. So these types of workers are substitutables. And when we try to shift to a high income country, to a developed country, our characteristics will also change. We will have a relatively abundant skilled workers with expertise, high expertise. And again, this is supported very much by the shifting of our manufacturing production to high value added production. So again, in my humble opinion, again, with Malaysia trying to aim as a high income country, a developed nation, wages must increase over time organically with prices in time as well. So again, next slide, please. When we look at the characteristics of a high income country, a developed country, we need to find areas of growth. And this is where I feel and I believe that digital economy supported by digital trade activities can be very, very important for Malaysia's growth outlook in the next few years. So there is actually a huge potential for Malaysia when it comes to the digital economy. The latest data showed that including e-commerce and information technology sectors, it is estimated to be valued at around 270 billion ringgit. And again, this was published in 2018. So when it comes to digital trade, we have seen that it has been a boon for businesses and MSMEs, especially during the time of the pandemic. We saw that in the very beginning, when MCOs was first introduced, digital platforms for GrabFood and Food Panda recorded a 30% increase in their total orders. So again, this is in year 2020. So next slide, please. But again, going digital is not as easy as we might want to think. On the ground, unfortunately, only an average of 15% of total businesses' sales were generated from online sales. So again, this is in 2019 and also in 2020. So when we looked at MSME specifically, we found that they still use platforms like Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram. So Facebook in Malaysia being the most popular for MSMEs. And again, when they asked SME Corp publish this, when they published this paper, about 90% of the respondents would use platforms like Shopee and Lazada, again, in the height of the pandemic. Next slide, please. And because I only have 10 minutes, I would like to jump into the challenges faced by entrepreneurs. So again, the challenges would cover the hardwares and also the softwares. So from a World Bank publication in 2018, and mind you, this is way before the pandemic, it was found that even at the time of prosperity, when we look at Malaysia, there are fewer businesses with websites and even fewer secure servers than per capita income would predict if we compared it to other countries in the region. So again, they also found that SMEs in Malaysia digitalize by using very basic and very simple technologies and not in the more complex digital technologies, causing them to lag behind larger firms with more complex technologies and systems backed by proper and structured funding. So even though 77% of all the digitalized firms are SMEs, when they dug deeper, only a quarter of the firms are actually adopting advanced digital tools. So again, less than half of the SMEs adopted digital finance and accounting systems in their operation. And this was again published in 2020. Next slide, please. When it comes to tech startups, again, there are also challenges there. When this was for a separate paper, when we talked to different firms and also different government agencies, they all suggested that the tech startups environment is not as attractive as it can be. The problems include lack of technology capabilities, lack of local talents to support tech startups, and also inadequate education and training programs available. So again, another point to be made is that Malaysia, we need to strengthen new avenues for financing to support startups and innovative firms like that is already being done in Singapore. So again, just to highlight a couple of statistics here, digital talent is again very scarce in the country. 88% of the Malaysian workers believe that they do not have the skills for a digital workplace. That's number one. Number two, 48% of MSMEs said that the key challenge for them is going digital or accepting digitalization as a new business process. And the third one would be 70% of Malaysian companies will have to retrain their staffs in the post-COVID period, with 83% of them needing retraining in areas of digital marketing and also digital productivity tools. And the latest report by LinkedIn also suggested that 6 out of 10 top emerging jobs in the world are digital related jobs. And again, this is where Malaysia has a gap and there's a need to catch up. So next slide, please. And again, that's on the hardware, but on the software, my colleague and I, we looked into other sorts of challenges when it comes to data protection. And this, I feel, is just as important as those hardware challenges. So again, we found that onboarding of MSMEs are very, very widely undertaken by different government agencies, federal and also state agencies. But unfortunately, not enough emphasis on data management and data protection is given. Just to note that cybersecurity related cases in Malaysia has actually increased. In 2007 alone, there were around 1,000 cases, and in the last few years, it has come to around 5-digit level. So again, categories such as fraud and also intrusion consistently register high cases per year. So going forward, I've highlighted a few things that we can talk about. Number one, we need to improve delivery of services so that the MSMEs are able to tap into grants, and they need a proper one-stop center when it comes to tapping into grants and tapping into fundings. So we also found that different programs for onboarding MSMEs are needed to cater to what is their need at the moment with the different type of businesses and the different levels of business progression. So even with ample data grant available, if the solutions applied are not suitable for a given MSMEs, the funding will go to waste. The government, again, should be encouraged to pursue awareness programs on digital rights and also cyberspace, especially on privacy. And last but not least, we found that as certification can be very expensive for MSMEs, there should be a program that can abridge cybersecurity practices commonly found in data management best practices. Again, this should be included in awareness programs. So I will stop there now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Juwita. A very good discussion on issues that needs to be challenged before this MSS, micro, small and medium-sized entrepreneurs go on the digital platform. I have a few questions, but we shall reserve that for later. We will go on to our second panelist. Dr. Anthony. My question to you, Dr. Anthony. The household debt in Malaysia has always been high, even before the pandemic. Will we see more households in dire straits? EPF help, but it was our own pencarum punya duit. So, okay. Well, will banks help now? And what will be the measures? Floor is yours, Dr. Anthony.
Okay, thank you very much. And good afternoon, Suraya, Juwita, Dato, and fellow members there. I think first and foremost, when we talk about the household debt issue, when you really strip it up, big chunk comes from property side. Then you get all the other segments of it. But given that we are looking at the living cost, because I am trying to relate household debt to living costs, yes, the numbers will be going up. For now, it should be a bit frozen, largely because we have the moratorium that has given a little bit of buffer. But in terms of the economic growth side, it has come down. So your nominal GDP is all down. So you'll see the numbers up. But we must be very mindful when we talk about living, cost of living and inflation. Inflation generally is based on a basket of goods and services. And that is tied to weight, so we can control the weights and here and there, so you don't really see the kind of inflation, because the man on the street will say, you cakap inflation 2%, 1%, but my harga barang is 15%, 20%. So that is cost of living. So the cost of living is tied to the real selling price of the goods plus your pendapatan. That's your nominal income. So what's happening now, if you notice, whether it's pandemic or no pandemic, and more so with this pandemic, pendapatan has dropped. The nominal income has dropped. Harga barang has gone up. The living cost has gone up because you go down and you see material prices. Everything is up. Probably Dato Vira will be sharing later on the food segment. We also know food prices have gone up. Everything is moving up. But your real income, so therefore your income is not going up. Prices are going up. Everything has come down. Worse off is that this pandemic has caused a lot of people to have lost their job. You look at unemployment data, memang betul 4%, 5% kind of level. Underemployment is about 2-3%. Net, I will say maybe 7 to 10% no job there, probably even more. Because the definition of underemployment is so loose, employment is so loose. We follow the ILO standard. But if you really go out there, I think it's more than that. Probably 20%, probably 30%. Then we have the informal sector. It's another segment that's being affected. So on the whole, if you look at this point now, 2021, the bankruptcy number is actually picking up. It's actually picking up. But the government has raised the bankruptcy bar. Dulu 30,000, then naik 50,000, sekarang 100,000. So it's already picking up slowly, despite the moratorium there. So what's going to happen next year? Next year, the moment the moratorium dah tak ada, the bankruptcy numbers will pick up. NPLs is going to go up, non-performing loans. So this is a new challenge that's coming into the picture. So under these circumstances, definitely your household debt will be under stress. Just the household debt. Now, we don't take the ratio. Kalau you take the ratio because your nominal GDP naik, we can put 7%, 10%, your ratio dah lain dah. Okay? Kita just take on household debt. So there's a lot of upward pressure there. So what is going to happen here is that there is a lot of stress, also on the bank side, also on the consumer side, also on the business side. Yeah, memang ada stress kat sini. So the way I look at this whole thing is that if going forward next year, put aside this year because of the moratorium, kalau next year itu, I would think that we may have to come out with a scheme that is to allow the step-up loan. That means to say, those who, say for example, somebody borrows from my bank, from the bank, dia kena bayar 2,000 sebulan. So sekarang, masuk tahun depan, dah tak ada murah lagi. So bila tak ada murah ni, so what will they do? They can tell the bank, I can only bayar RM500 untuk 1 tahun. That means tahun 2022, I can only bayar RM500. I cannot bayar 2,000. So if you go by normal standard, you bayar 500, it go masuk NPL. So maybe we can come out with a structure to these people to say, if you can bayar 500 for 2022, 2023, can you tambah a bit more? 600 ke 800. So you go on a step-up loan. So that is one way I think the banking system, if they can come in, that is a way you can really help the people out. Then again, there will be some, memang no job. Okay, still no job. So how are you going to ask the guy to pay? So there must be a special treatment to that group of people. So because at the end of the day, we must remember, this crisis is not like 97 Asian financial crisis. That is purely economic crisis, very fast we fixed it. This is a health crisis, affected lives, livelihood, ramai orang dah bunuh diri pun. Okay, dah gantung, dah bunuh diri pun. So I think it's a situational play here that I agree that we still have to be spending, not be too focused on our fiscal deficit ratio as at this point. There must be a way to help, especially the B40 group. They are very badly affected. It's not just the B40. If you really go down, even the M40 is affected. Okay, there is a big segment of M40 now affected. I think that kind of leeway is something you got to help. That is for the individuals here. The same note will have to be on businesses. If you ask businesses to go to digitalization, they will not go now because they are talking about survival. Dia pun tak tahu besok dia ada ke tak ada pun. Okay? Already we know about 150,000 SMEs have already gone. So there's about another, 400, 500, we are worried they may go down under also going forward. So I think this is where a more active role will have to come to still create the kind of flexibility of payment, repayment scheme is one. Second part is in terms of loans, giving out loans. Do you still want to go back to the old style of the due diligence? I mean, you go in all the protocols you need to have, or are you going to create some kind of flexibility? So do you then say that, okay, we create this kind of flexibility, then the government comes in and give a form of guarantee out to this kind of business loans. So when you have this kind of, because at the end of the day, in a nutshell, if I just summarize the whole thing out here, if you don't create jobs, they cannot pay. So to create jobs, you need to have business. Okay? Just take our Dato Bira's business, just his business. If his business expands, he's creating job. So when he creates job, he's creating demand. So we need to create the kind of flexibility for the services sector businesses to move. Every segment of businesses, they have to move. Tak kisah dia micro business or S or the M. They have to pick up and go. So I think the idea of going into all this digitalization, ESG, yes, these are all big buzzword now. Memang buzzword gila, automation. But chances are most businesses won't go in as at this point because they're talking of survival. So I think that's where, again, the role of government comes back to ensure that all the MSME businesses can lift up and go. So when they lift and go, you're creating jobs. There's a lot of spillover. Then the pressure on the household debt will drop. At the same time, the financial sector comes into the picture, creating the kind of leeways out that net, what I will say 2022, we will be able to contain a lot of this kind of bad loans or whatever. By 2023, 2024, when the economy gets back to its normal levels playing field, then you tarik balik lah whatever of this kind of incentives, okay? Then you start rolling back some of these policies. I think that is what I would be looking at more. It has to be a two-way. That is the role of creating businesses for the private sector, encouraging them to move on, create the kind of incentive, whether tax incentive ke apa ke give. Okay. At the same time, the financial sector comes. It has to be a two-prong. So only then to answer your question, the issue of household debt, memang we are concerned. The issue of corporate debt pun we are concerned. It's a total debt we are talking. Because you must remember, because of this crisis, less than I think about 50% don't even have 10,000 in EPF. Itu baru EPF. What about the informal sector? I think they don't even have money in the bank already, the B40s. So you're seeing a big pool of people there are struggling. So how are they going to buy? You continuously give moratorium, can. Whole of next year we give moratorium, can. But business have to pick up. They have to create jobs. I think it's a combination of a total package has to come in here. I will stop here. We will take questions thereafter. Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anthony. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you brought up differentiation in terms of policies as well for those who are salaried, for those who are not, and we have different packages for them. At the same time, for businesses, I like these government guaranteed loans. This is something we should do. Yeah, I think but we'll have more discussion later. But let's go to our final, but most important panelists, Dato' Wira, Amir. You have the largest hypermarket. You are on the ground. What is the situation there? And what can we do? Over to you, Dato'.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Fine. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Suraya. You know, I would love to talk about what I want to talk about, but what Anthony talked about seems more interesting, seriously. Being an economist, and he's not a banker, that's the problem. Because his banking, people are not talking like what he's talking. I think that is the problem here. All right? And I can give two, before I go to my topic, seriously, I think this is too important to just let go. I think what banks and what the government need to do, because we all agree there's the overhang of debt, okay? Corporate debt and individual debts, along debts. Somewhere this debt has to be taken away for the economy to move. Because, I mean, I think this is economy 101 when you learn in your university, right? You give $1 to somebody and the money must go round, it goes 10 times, it comes back to you, and you find that the dollar is a forged note. But it didn't matter, right? Because the economy moved, right? So the main issue is debt and the hanging of the debt there. What the government needs to do, which the government is not listening, all right? And I brought it up a million times to even Zafro and whoever wants to listen to me. So now they don't want to listen to me anymore. Basically, for the retail sector, I can't talk about manufacturing or whatever. For the retail sector, we need a Dana retail. Okay, just like how we had the Dana Halta, we need a Dana retail. They need to pick up this debt. You know, a businessman like me, I'm an owner and also a landlord and also a tenant. I've got accounts receivable. People have not paid me rental. All right. I'm so scared to mention it that Anthony will tell M-Bank. All right. But then the bank will come after me tomorrow. But I will have accounts receivable of millions of dollars on my books, which in the next 3 to 6 months, when my accounts are going to be audited, my auditors are going to jump. They say, you got to write this off because that money is not going to come. What we need is the government to come in, just like a Dana Halta, and buy up this debt and give me some money, maybe give me a haircut or whatever, and let them collect the money, just exactly what they did for Dana Halta. Then the money comes to me and I can pay my landlord, which I also owe probably millions of dollars because I haven't been able to collect millions of dollars. So there's an overhang here. So money has to come from somewhere. So money, I pay my landlord pays his electric bill and blah, 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 and the money moves. I think this is one solution. Okay, getting Dana Jamin, which is falling asleep, doesn't work. All right, okay, because they are more difficult to deal with than bankers themselves. Okay, they tend to be very strict, and I cannot understand why. Okay, and I deal with Dana Jamin. I mean, my friends, I borrowed from Dana Jamin, but I find it they are becoming more bankers than so-called lenders of last resort, which is what it's meant to be. My first point. Second point is that I have a very simple, naive solution. A very naive, but don't forget, I'm an ex-banker myself for many years. Very simple. When you lend money to somebody, you look at the risk analysis. Say the bank had agreed to lend me $1 million. He probably, when he analyzed my risk, he will look at it and say, I can actually lend you 1.4 million, but bankers being bankers, they'll give you 1. I think this is how it works in the real world. All right? What the banks will have to do now, for those who were good borrowers pre-pandemic, okay, if you're bad borrowers pre-pandemic, you forget them. I mean, those are bad people, all right, for whatever reason. But those who were good people during pre-pandemic, and of course now everybody got problems or whatever, the main thing to do is now, if I could lend you $1 million, how about I give you an extra 300,000? So you give them 1.3 million. So you look at the borrowing. Say my borrowing is $1 billion, right? You need to give me extra 300 on the same risk analysis. If you give me the extra 300 million, it will solve all my problems. So the guy who borrows $1 million, you need to give him 300,000. The guy who borrows 10 million, you have to give him 3 million. That is what is required in the economy because there's no working capital at all. Government is saying, we are going to open interstate. I said, that sounds like fun, but who's going to run the business? The guy who wants to open a restaurant has no money to buy the fish and vegetables or hire his people anymore. So there's no money there. So these, I think, are two crucial things that the government must look at and solve it first, pump the money. I mean, I'm sure they can borrow better than me. Don't know whether their ratings are better than me, that I don't know. But I'm sure they can borrow better than me. All right? Okay, they can go to BBB. I'm already CCC anyway, right? So, so I think this is what is required.
Yes.
Okay. Habis cerita. Now we go to my topic.
Yes, because we have less than 15 minutes. Tak belum jawab soalan lagi.
Boleh tanya. I want to go to digital, but now I leave it to that. No, actually, I was going to answer Anthony's question exactly his point. My IT people came to me just last week. They said, "Oh, we like to have a $3 million budget. You know, we want to expand e-commerce. We want to do this." I said, "Can you just go to hell? I'm cutting salaries. I'm cutting costs. I'm closing outlets, and you are coming to me and say, please spend on e-commerce, digitalizing your business." And rightfully, I don't have that kind of money to spend there. I need the money to pay salaries, to pay my electric bill, to pay my suppliers to survive. All right? And I'm not talking about myself alone because being president of Bumi Putra Retail Organization, vice president MRA, I'm talking for all my retail colleagues. We all are in the same boat, just different parts of the boat, and each one is sinking in their own way. And many of us are swimming backstroke. I think anybody who knows how to swim backstroke is swimming for survival. As long as there's no wave, you can keep swimming backstroke and you'll survive. One more big wave and you drown straight away. Okay, now let's go to retail. Retail, people outside there think, Maidin, jual makanan. Everybody needs food. So definitely the business must be good. This is where people are wrong. The so-called retail industry report that came out this morning. Just came out this morning. Okay, so hot from the press. Okay, retail business from April to June 2020 was negative 30.9%. January to March 2021, negative 9.9%. April to June, positive 3.4%. That's because of the lower base, okay? And January to June, so the 6 months for 2021, negative 4.4%. Remember, retail is 35% of the Malaysian economy, all right? And the government keep focusing on manufacturing, on I don't know what, but they tend to forget that retail is 35%. And they close up all the mall, they shut down the mall, they say you cannot eat in a restaurant. That's why the country is suffering. Okay? Now, to go further, supermarket and hypermarket sales, not Maidin, okay? Supermarket and hypermarket sales, first quarter, negative 12%. Okay? Second quarter, just came out, negative 12.3%. What does this show actually? It shows that even food, people that don't have money to even buy food. And AC Nielsen report, we just came out also 2 weeks ago, they showed that the volume, not the value only, but the volume has gone down tremendously, right? So there is no money out there. Okay. Can I have my first slide? Somebody playing with the slide? All right. Well, these are not people to be executed, okay? So, but I cannot show their faces. But I think I'm trying to emphasize what Anthony was saying in terms of debt and what is happening out there. This is the reality of the situation. We catch, I mean, in business, we catch people stealing all the time. But they steal television. They steal high value items. But when you see this particular photograph, the person is stealing 3 tomatoes, a little bit of garlic. That goes to show that she's stealing to eat today. She's not thinking about stealing to eat tomorrow. So these are not thieves. These are poor people who have no food on the table. This is how serious it is out there. And I don't think the people, the powers to be really know how serious it is. This is serious. You see what they're stealing. I've never, in my 30 years of life in business, I mean, I catch people stealing all the time, you know. I've never caught people stealing tomatoes. They steal boxes of tomatoes, truckloads of tomatoes, and they go and sell it off. But people don't steal 3 tomatoes. It shows that they really need something to eat, you know. There's meat there, noodles, you know, condensed milk, probably to make teh tarik. Okay, next slide. Can you go to the next slide before this slide? All right. Oh, okay, this is going to be a bit difficult to see, but basically what I wanted to show, which Anthony mentioned just now, harga barang naik. Harga betul-betul naik. Okay, food prices. I mean, food we divide into 3. We say groceries, which is your so-called chocolate milk, you know, your tomato ketchup, your sardines, all that. That's groceries. Grocery has gone up only by 2.4% from 2019, which is pre-pandemic, until now. So not too bad, 2.4. Groceries too, which is your primary, your sundry, your fab, you know, your body wash and all that. It's gone up by 1.8%. You say, oh, that's not too bad, plus or minus inflation. Hopefully your gaji naik, so maybe you cover that. But fresh food, that means your vegetables, your fish, has gone up by 35% from 2019. You see, we in Maidin, we track 150 items, and we have been tracking this since 2011, you know. Actually, we were asked by the government to track this those days, all right? And we've been tracking ever since because I find it very useful. So we track 150 key items, not the basket that the government uses, which I never believe in that basket. That's why the cost of living never goes up, because the basket, something wrong with the basket there. They should come to Maidin and shop the basket. I can tell them what people buy actually, what real people buy, not what economists buy, all right? What real people buy. I think all of you are economists there, so maybe you people buy different things. So when you look at the prices of things going up, bawal hitam used to cost $12.88, now it's 24 ringgit. It's fish, you know, basic bawal hitam, bukan bawal putih. Bawal putih itu orang T20 lah. Ini bawah hitam, dia hitam tau, betul-betul hitam. So dia memang untuk B40 dengan M40 yang dah jadi B40 sekarang. Okay. Ikan selah had gone up by 82%. Ginger, old ginger, but this is because of China, had gone up by 43%. Tomatoes, very basic, had gone up by 43%. Now you know why the lady was stealing tomatoes, like she can't afford to buy the tomatoes. Okay, so basic, tenggiri, I'm looking at papaya, chincharu, cauliflower. Cauliflower gone up by 24%, pre-pandemic until now. This is what is affecting the people. Dah unemployed, underemployed. I mean, it's nice to see the so-called pilot opening a burger store, but unfortunately he's underemployed and poor fella has taken business from Ramly Burger. Another 100 Ramly Burgers are selling, now he's selling burger pula. So that is also a very bad business. People say, it's nice that he's at least willing to be a burger man. I mean, I hands off to him, but he has taken away a business from another burger person. So it doesn't help the country's economy. What can the government do? Government can do a lot of things if they want to do that. I think they don't want to do that, seriously. Right? But if they want to do, the slide before this. I get very, very upset when I talk about all this, because, like you say, I'm on the ground. I'm not sitting with some economists with, tables and, looking at charts. All three of you are going to be very angry with me. But anyway, kita orang jual ikan bilis, makan ikan bilis, orang kata. Ikan bilis pun mahal sekarang. Okay? The government has policies to enrich people. One of the greatest sins of the government is AP, which is approved permit. You need permit to import everything under the sun in Malaysia. And why you need the permit, only God knows, and plus the government knows lah. Right? Okay? For example, cabbage. Cabbage, you need AP. Cabbage, and they're not protecting anybody because, Cameron Highland only produces 10% of the cabbage that we need. Plus, they don't have enough foreign workers to work at the farms anyway. All right? Which is another government policy that doesn't work. But anyway, so there's 10% only. 90% of cabbage is imported from China. To import cabbage, you need an AP. And the government doesn't give AP to my Day, or Tesco, or my NSK friends. The government gives AP to ABC, if you know what is ABC. And I have to buy the AP from ABC at 30 cents per kilo. All right? So sugar requires AP. Milk, the UH Steel milk requires AP, UH Steel milk. So if you buy UH Steel milk at 5 ringgit, right? Because of AP, the milk is costing 7 ringgit. Without AP, the milk will only be 5.50. So if you just look at 3 items there, just pick 3 items. Sugar is costing the rakyat, not the government, it's costing the rakyat 19% more. Cabbage is costing the rakyat 20% more. Milk is costing the rakyat 21% more. And for no reason, they could just remove this AP, allow any Tom, Dick and Harry to import. If they don't want, just give it to me, they give me the AP, then let me be the Tom, Dick and Harry to import. And the government will save money. Very simple. Even now, you look at it, test kit. Test kit? You can go to UK, you can just walk to any store and buy a test kit. Here you have to go to a pharmacy. Itu pun nasib baik KPDN HEP minister, after we brief him that these people are cartels selling test kit that cost 6 ringgit at 39 ringgit 90 cents. The government brought it down to 1990 and they want to bring it down lower. I don't know when. All right? And the government has stated that they will allow hypermarket and maybe chain stores to sell the test kit. The minute the government says yes, tomorrow you'll be getting test kit at $9.90. I can guarantee you that. Now you're paying.
Sorry, thank you, Dato' Ira. It's 1 minute to 3:30, and we will finish in 1 minute. So unfortunately,
Take so much time.
we should have gotten another 1 hour because the discussion on everybody's points. Tengok organizer cakap apa tau? Kita extend slot for another 10 minutes.
Okay.
So we have 10 minutes. So
the government is being political here. They're being very nice to you.
So I'm going to bring all the policies yang kita dah cakap di sini supaya all of us will have a way in which we can, because the point of this is to ensure that kita boleh keluarkan policy daripada discussion hari ini. So quite clear, one is digitization. Nampak gaya ada debate di situ, patut kita buat atau tidak. But so if I may, for the finance, only from a banker who's a not banker, Dr. Anthony, they're saying that there should be a step up type of loan for those who are salaried. Those who are not salaried, they should have a different package, which akan didetailkan kemudian. But for businesses as well, because businesses are the one that create jobs and will give income for the non-salaried soon, because it's a circular economy. Mesti ada macam dana harta seperti Datuk Wira cakap. Sebenarnya saya dah buat paper ni, dana harta for small MSME, tapi dia diam juga, tak ada dengar apa-apa. So that would be good, whereby you ring fence those yang akan ke arah bankruptcy, not because of their fault, not because of how badly they're doing things, but because it is a pandemic. Jadi we have to help to, orang kata, buffer them from jatuh kerana gejala ini. So we have what we call that sort of ring fence of dana harta type of funding for the businesses. Also government guaranteed loans. And I think one of the issue yang penting juga ialah AP, which is something I think saya tak perlu comment, but something that others can comment. Juga sebab saya rasa it's quite clear lah, that's direct, straightforward. Apa lagi nak cakap kan, if you could reduce daripada RM36 kepada RM6 and now maybe $9 saja, I mean what is the point of not doing it? Now if we can go back to Dr. Juwita, just a bit to orang kata perhalusi your policy option, because Datuk cakap dengan Dr. Anthony cakap kita survival mode. Untuk apa kita sibuk-sibuk nak buat innovation sekarang? And what is your answer to that?
I understand that there is a need for the country to survive, the businesses to survive, and also the workers to survive. I do understand that. But the digital economy and the digital trade issue has been around for the past 10 years. And as we have seen that during the pandemic, it has been a very, very important vehicle for workers to stay alive, for workers to keep on surviving and to provide for their households. So again, this is going to be a medium to long-term planning. And just because we're in the pandemic does not mean that this trend is going to subside or is going to be eliminated in the global field. Again, the pandemic has actually strengthened our digital economy market and also our digital trade activities. So it is with that platform, I think that when we have the momentum, we need to be able to strengthen it soon. And again, I am a trade economist. When we think about the digital economy and digital trade, we're thinking about ratifying the CPTPP. We're going to be thinking about ratifying the RCEP. And we're going to be doing this for the next year or 2 years. So if we cannot start now, when can we do it? If it's not for these two free trade agreements, there will be other free trade agreements that we have to ratify with probably a much more deeper commitment in our e-commerce chapters. So again, I do understand that we are in a survival mode, but to survive sustainably in the next era, post-pandemic, we need to think of the next platform or the next new source of growth for our country, for our workers, for our graduates, and for our businesses. Thanks.
You know, I'm sorry. I'm not saying, sorry, I'm always interjecting everything. But I'm not saying that we don't want to do it, right? But I think the first point is that the government approach is first wrong. Why is it? You know what they're giving? Oh, you micro, need 5,000, you go and digitalize. This is another 10,000 for you, you go and digitalize. After take the 10,000, go and buy kaput leko, jual kaki lima. You know, the money is giving 5,000, 10,000, nak digitalize apa? And end of the day, they have another consultant, they're going to pay $4,000 to write the paper to get the $5,000. You see? So that's how the money disappeared. The government, what they should do is, you know, sometimes, I mean, I'm not going to be this thing, but sometimes you should forget the smaller ones. Sometimes to follow. No? You don't forget everybody in this world, but you forget. You pick up your winners, because at the end of the day, the winners are the Grab and the Panda, right? You want to have a second Grab, a second Panda, because money is going out of the country like nobody's business. Shopee is foreigner, you know. Lazada is foreign, Grab is foreign, everything is foreign. You got to pick up the local players and make them up and give people 300,000, 500,000, then you can digitalize something lah. Ini semua micro, semua nak digitalize, they will go Facebook, you know. That money you can give, that one is free handout. You know, you're helping the economy. Just pump money, the money goes somewhere. I have no problem with that. But you're not going to digitalize the country by doing that.
If I just were to add to what, Juwita and Dato Wira mentioned, you see, we have to be very mindful about digitalization. I'm not against it, okay? You have to look at those who are already there, whether pandemic or no pandemic, the bigger business, the mid-sized guys and so on. Yes, they have gone forward. And even during this pandemic boom, some of the mid-sized companies and some of the small, the SMEs, the S2, some are already gone into, they are ready there, so they can go because they have the know-how. Some of them got the money, especially these exporter guys are a bit more easier to talk. But then when you talk about the S, the other segment of the S, the domestic player, they are struggling. They're really struggling at the moment. So, and that's one part. What more the micro business? So they are also struggling. So I think the other one part is the cash flow issue. Second part is they don't even know how to do it. They just don't even know how to do it. Yesterday, I had an engagement with the SMEs. Okay, and in that SME, and I'm not surprised when they said they don't even know how to do it, and they're terrified with RCEP and CTPPA because what they classify themselves, they are more of not 4.0, IR 4.0. Dia kata dia bukan IR 4.0, dia IR 1.0, 2.0. Dia tahap itu. So you cakap 4.0, dia kata, I tak tahu macam nak pergi mana. They don't know. Okay? And then when they engage with these people, too high level, tak faham. But then, exactly what Dato was mentioning. You give 5,000, the guy buy keropok leko, you buy this, the money just disappears. So you see, it's an issue of talent again. It's just like, let me sidetrack, smart farming. When I was talking to Tun M, the 7th PM then, memang we like smart farming, but know-how don't have. So it's a big buzzword, but how do we execute it? Can we say our farmer down there is ready for it? No. So there must be the whole ecosystem, itu must be correct. So that is the part of digitalizing. Just to add on to what Dato was mentioning just now about Dana Harta, Dana Jamin, that is what I was trying to come to, but I just stopped there just now. Because you see, the point here now is, mora is moratorium, it's temporary, it's a temporary freeze saja. So like in 97, we had the Dana Harta, Dana Modal. You throw everything there, you free up the bank. So bank that ada NPS, padahal all this has gone there. Now you can inject new money. Okay, new money is what you want to inject. So the same note is what they should be looking at on the corporate side. Not just look at the big boys or the GLCs and the likes of the big names, But I think they have to trickle all the way down because this is a health crisis. Benda ni is a health crisis. Ini bukan 97 is a currency crisis. So ini is a health crisis. So when we have this, then it will be a good way to free up all these retail businesses to come back. Okay, you take up that loan out, you free them up so they're as good as clean. We find a way to salvage and sell. We go back to the old model and salvage that out. Likewise, when you do this, the special borrowings of 30% or 20%, because the books are clean, now it is easy for them to move. AP itu, that one is a foregone conclusion. I think we all know the issue of AP. And orang tengah in the fisherman, I think this is where all your cost of food is running up. This is more sensitive to other things than easier to say academically here. Okay, that's what I would like to say. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Dr. Dato. I mean, this is fantastic discussion. We not even answered the Q&A from the public, but we've been answering each other. But most important is that there's a very good policy prescription here, position as well for different sector, as well as all the pros and cons of each policy option. So I think that is a very good discussion for today. And I hope NACOL is happy with this discussion that we've done today. And I thank you so much, Dr. Juwita, Dr. Anthony, Dr. Amir, for your very honest and frank take on what's happening in our country. Because this is how we can even, sebenarnya kalau kita tak, orang kata, acknowledge the problem, we can't find the solution. And I'm very happy in today's discussion, we actually acknowledge the problems. And then kita discuss the pros and cons of the solution. So I think we should have more of this, but maybe not today. Thank you. Over to you. Terima kasih banyak dan minta maaf lambat. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.